Beneath the Indo-Pacific's dark waters lies a secret that could reshape global power. At depths where sunlight dies and pressure crushes steel, Chinese Type 096 ballistic missile boats, each carrying enough nuclear firepower to level cities, slip past American Virginia-class hunters in a deadly game of hide-and-seek. Russian Yasen-class attack subs transit under Arctic ice to reach Pacific stations. And soon, Australian nuclear submarines will join this underwater battlefield for the first time. Can a $368 billion gamble counter China's sprint to submarine supremacy? September 2024. Rybachi Naval Base, Kamchatka Peninsula. Two shadows arrived beneath the ice. Russia's newest Borei-class SSBN and Yasen-class hunter, fresh from northern fleet yards, now permanently stationed in Pacific waters. December 2024. Vladivostok, the sixth and final improved Kilo, completes its journey from European waters, giving Russia's Pacific Fleet its most potent undersea force since Soviet times March 2023. Washington, London, Canberra. Three Allied leaders unveiled AUKUS Pillar 1, the most ambitious submarine program in naval history. Australia will acquire at least 8 nuclear-powered attack submarines by mid-century, first through Virginia-class transfers starting 2032, then through SSN-AUKUS, jointly developed with Britain and powered by American S-9G reactor technology. This program has triggered the largest undersea arms race since the Cold War. This isn't just about submarines, it's about who controls the choke points, sea lanes, and contested waters that define Indo-Pacific power. China's People's Liberation Army Navy is projected to field 76 submarines by 2030, surpassing America's undersea fleet in raw numbers. Among them, 13 nuclear attack subs, 8 nuclear ballistic missile boats, and 55 advanced diesel-electric hunters, equipped with air-independent propulsion and lithium-ion batteries. Russia has deployed 5 Borei-class SSBNs and 2 Yasen-class SSGNs to its Pacific Fleet. 7 cutting-edge nuclear submarines that didn't exist there a decade ago. India is building 6 indigenous nuclear attack subs. Japan operates 22 lithium-ion battery submarines. South Korea test-fired ballistic missiles from submarines. Even Southeast Asian nations like Vietnam, Indonesia, and Singapore have acquired their first subs. The strategic problem is simple but existential. Without nuclear-powered submarines, Australia's aging Collins-class diesel boats can patrol for weeks before needing to surface. With AUKUS SSNs, Australian crews can remain submerged for months, cruise at 30+ knots, and carry Tomahawk cruise missiles with 1,500-kilometer range. They can hunt Chinese ballistic missile subs in the Philippine Sea, enforce blockades during Taiwan contingencies, or strike land targets from the Indian Ocean to the Western Pacific. This capability fundamentally alters Beijing's strategic assumptions. China sees this clearly. The moment AUKUS was announced in September 2021, Beijing condemned it as Cold War mentality and warned that Australia had turned itself into an adversary. Chinese officials blasted the transfer of naval nuclear propulsion technology as extremely irresponsible, questioning whether it undermines non-proliferation norms. But rhetoric aside, China's response has been visceral and concrete. The PLA Navy accelerated production of its Type 095 SSN, a next-generation attack submarine featuring pump-jet propulsion and acoustic quieting that could approach Russian stealth levels. Construction of the Type 096 SSBN is advancing on schedule, with the first boat expected operational before 2030, carrying JL-3 intercontinental ballistic missiles. According to US intelligence assessments, it will be far stealthier than anything China has fielded before. A retired American submariner warned these boats are going to be a nightmare to track. Very, very hard to detect. Russia isn't standing idle either. Moscow views AUKUS as a strategic threat to its Pacific interests and a potential complication for its own ballistic missile submarines operating from the Sea of Okhotsk bastion. The delivery of advanced Borei A and Yasen M boats to Kamchatka signals Russia's intent to maintain credible nuclear deterrence and sea denial capability in Asian waters. And there's a wild card: Russian technical cooperation with China. Moscow has shared quieting techniques and propulsion technology that helped Chinese designers leap forward in submarine stealth. If that collaboration deepens, AUKUS could face not just one peer competitor, but two technologically aligned adversaries beneath the waves. Taiwan Strait, 2042. The first Australian SSN-AUKUS slips beneath thermocline at 400 meters. Reactor coolant flows silently through S9G cores. British combat systems process Allied sensor data. 24 Mk-48 torpedoes, 12 Tomahawk Block V missiles. Mission: detect Chinese Type 096 reaching Philippine sea stations. Passive sonar triangulates contact 60 miles northeast. Type 095 SSN with pump jet propulsion. Australian boat goes ultra-quiet. 3 knots, masking flow noise. Chinese boat deploys towed array. Thermocline bends sound unpredictably. Both rely on passive listening. 90 days submerged without surfacing. Diesel predecessors could never achieve this. American P-8 drops sonobuoys 200 miles north. Japanese Taige-class monitors East China Sea. Satellite links Allied forces into real-time battle map. When Chinese SSN evades, Australian boat hands tracking to nearby Virginia. Chinese captain never knew two hunters coordinated. That's AUKUS advantage, seamless interoperability. But getting to this future requires navigating an industrial gauntlet. The AUKUS submarine program spans 3 decades and costs Australia an estimated $368 billion through mid-century, the largest single defence investment in Australian history. That figure funds expansion of American submarine yards, upgrades to BAE Systems' Barrow-in-Furness facility in Britain, and construction of Australia's first nuclear-certified shipyard at Osborne. About $3 billion flows to US shipbuilders in the next 4 years alone. The phased roadmap starts with rotational deployments. By 2027, HMAS Stirling near Perth will host Submarine Rotational Force West, 1 British Astute-class and up to 4 American Virginias on permanent rotation. Then comes the interim fleet. Starting 2032, Australia receives at least 3 Virginia-class SSNs transferred from US inventory. Finally, SSN-AUKUS construction begins around 2030 in British and Australian yards. Royal Navy receives its first boat in the late 2030s. Royal Australian Navy takes delivery early 2040s. Australia plans to build at least 5. Britain intends to acquire 8 to 12. Each will displace roughly 10,000 tons. Feature American S9G reactors, British combat systems, and vertical launch capability. Britain's Barrow sustains 21,000 jobs at peak. Australia creates nuclear workforce from scratch. Supply chains stretch Ohio to Adelaide. The 2025 Geelong Treaty formalizes technology transfer. 3 military-industrial bases merge into single undersea ecosystem. By 2040-60s, AUKUS fields American Virginias and Columbias, British SSN-AUKUS and Dreadnoughts, Australian Hunters, sharing reactor tech, combat systems, doctrine. Dozens of nuclear subs surge into Indo-Pacific. China faces multinational coalition. Taiwan invasion means Australian SSNs enforcing blockades, British boats interdicting South China Sea, Virginia's hunting Chinese boomers simultaneously. China's counter-strategy: build 76 boats by 2030, up from 66. Improve stealth: Type 096 incorporates Russian quieting, approaching a cooler silence. Develop underwater Great Wall of Seabed sensors. Deploy AI-driven sonar. Leverage numbers. India approved 6 SSN program 2015. First boat 2037. All 6 mid-2050. $14 billion, 10,000-ton displacement, 190-megawatt reactors. BrahMos missiles. 6th nation building nuclear attack subs. Timelines are brutal. Australia's first domestically built SSN arrives 2042, 17 years out. China's expansion happens now. Russia's modernization complete. Critical gap before AUKUS delivers. Industrial capacity is choke point. US builders strain. Britain's Barrow juggles Dreadnought and SSN-AUKUS. Australia creates nuclear infrastructure from zero. Cost overruns guaranteed political commitment must hold 3 decades. Proliferation paradox. AUKUS says nuclear-powered, not nuclear-armed. Reactors use weapons-grade HEU sealed in welded units. Australia pledges never to open. Critics argue sharing sets dangerous precedent. NPT loophole others might exploit. Will manned subs dominate by 2050s? Unmanned vehicles, AI sonar, space surveillance could erode stealth opportunity costs staggering. Proponents argue submarines remain most survivable platforms. Single boat loiters undetected months, strikes at 1,000-mile ranges, presence forces adversaries to divert resources, introduces uncertainty, favoring deterrence. The Indo-Pacific grows crowded with subs. Alliance questions persist. AUKUS binds Australia to US-UK priorities 50 years. If AUKUS succeeds, it cements Allied coalition deterring Chinese aggression, protecting sea lanes. If it fails, cost overruns, bottlenecks, political reversals, obsolescence, power shifts to Beijing. China gains control over island chains, dominates South China Sea to Central Pacific. Should nations share nuclear submarine technology with trusted allies to counterbalance rising powers, even if it sets precedents undermining non-proliferation norms? Or does undersea superiority outweigh proliferation risks? Drop your thoughts below. This is DIB Dispatch, where billion-dollar projects meet battlefield reality.